Good evening, good morning, no matter where you are. I hope you're having a great day and a wonderful time. Today, we're here with Dougie Childers again. This week, we're going to talk about something a little different. Um, I see in a lot of groups folks talking about breeding. They got questions about breeding, they got questions about selection, questions about what to cull, what to not cull, how do I know? And guys, a lot of that stuff, it comes with time. And Dougie's been handling chickens for 50 years. And that's learning from somebody with that kind of experience is about the only way that you're going to do it. And so, I was reading through some things this week and I was like, you know what? I know we talked to Dougie last week, but we're going to talk to him again this week because I know that man knows how to breed chickens. I know he knows how to select them. He's been there, done that. So we're going to learn from his experiences. So Dougie, tell us a little bit about your farm. Tell us, roughly where you are. I know you've got couple different kinds of birds there. Tell us what you got, and we'll go from there.
Well, I don't have a big farm. Matter of fact, my chicken lot is 50 foot wide and 100 foot long. And I've got a pen built on the side that's 12 foot wide and 100 foot long. So actually, I only got 38 by 100 to put pens in.
Only got 3,800 square feet to put chickens in. That's not bad, my friend.
Well, it's like I say, it's when you do something that small, you got to make every inch count. You can't, to have any amount of birds. And I've never had a big bunch. 30 or 40 at a time. I didn't ever really want a big bunch because if you get a lot and you're working, you've got two jobs.
Oh yeah.
You can't do nothing, which I'm retired now, but I said if I ever got back in it, I'd do it exactly like I wanted to. And I built a 6 foot tall fence and then built a 12 by 100 foot long pen inside that fence. And last year I raised my chickens in that pen. Oh, I raised the roosters. And I only lost like 2 or 3 chickens. I culled a couple, but basically they all made it. I didn't have any sickness or anything like that. I kept it sprayed down with I use Clorox and hot water and just go out there and spray the ground. I do it at night when they're roosting, where it'll have time to kind of dry. And then when I got all of them out of there, I tilled the ground up under the tin part, the shaded part of it, and I put lime on it. Well, I limed the whole pen. I planted winter rye in it. I've got grass out there now. It's just green as it can be.
I'm glad you mentioned one of those things. A lot of people talk about, well, if you put down lime, you're going to burn their feet, or you're going to do this, or you're going to do that. You got to let it soak in. But I'm glad you mentioned that you waited till nighttime. That's actually something that I had an old timer tell me about years ago. And that's what I do. I wait till nighttime. They're up on the roost and they ain't coming down unless they have to for a long time. So it gives it plenty of time to soak in and all that. Now, let me ask you this. Do you do the lime first and then spray it down with bleach water? Or do you do those the same night? Or do you separate them out?
Well, what I did was I got me some pelleted lime and one of them little handheld things you spread grass with, and I would just put it in there and just well, I'd ride my wheelchair around in there and spread it out. But you can get just a regular spreader and pour it in there. I mean, the liming part, I like to spray it down with water after I get through with it, especially that pelleted lime where the kind of melt in, so they
Yeah.
won't eat it. Because I planted that grass in my yard, and my hens that were running loose, they eat about 90% of it. So, depending on what you're doing, I try to do a lot of stuff at night when I'm messing with them. They're calmer,
Yeah.
and I wear a hunting light. I used to coon hunt all the time. I wear a hunting light, and I go in the pen. When I get ready to catch them, if they're a little bit wild or whatever, I just cut the light out, reach and get them, and then turn my light back on.
All right, so that brings up another. I call it a pro tip. I used to coon hunt with my son years ago. Actually, one of the companies that I owned, I actually named after a Walker coon hound, and I have a light that I used to wear when I go hunting with him that was adjustable on the brightness, and it had different color lenses that you can wear with it. And like for me, I can go out in my chicken yard for hours at nighttime with the green filter over the light.
Yep.
And it don't bother them. As long as I like as I'm walking around, as long as I talk or hum a song or something like that so they can recognize my voice, I may get a few clucks, but the rest of it don't matter. Like they don't care that I'm sprinkling lime out like it's a scene from the movie Wolf of Wall Street. And they don't care when I get the hose pipe out and spray the ground. Like none of that bothers them. But in the daytime, sometimes they want to go crazy.
Yeah, I try to do these new lights I got, that red light and all that's on the head already, and it's on a LED bulb.
Right.
And you just turn it to that setting. I use that red light a lot, especially when I'm going in to catch them. If they don't act wild, plus it keeps bugs down. They don't get around that red bulb as much as.
Oh yeah, you got them color lights. In the South, me and Dougie, we're not far from each other. And in the South, man, in the summertime, bugs are bad. You got a white light on your head, you might as well have an attractant on you for bugs.
Oh yeah. That white one on and go outside and they'll be flying around you, and cut the red one on, they'll just kind of go away.
Yep.
Yeah, I try to do most of my stuff at night because I'm clumsy and I fall around and I'm going to this year try that little 2-foot cord that I see people putting on chickens. A little string rope. It's about 2 foot long. And it gives you something to grab, like when they're on the ground. I think it would make it easier, and it evidently don't get tangled up because it's not attached to anything but their leg. I just thought I might try that and see how that, especially when my breed got.
What I'm picturing right now is that 38 by 100 fenced in yard you got. You out there in your motorized wheelchair chasing down a chicken with a leash on it. That's just, I'm sorry, that's the visual that just hit in my head. So when you do that, I want to come see it. I'll help you do it.
Yeah, I've learned how to do things that, like used to, I did everything by myself.
Yeah.
And like when you're giving them a shot or trimming their spurs or something like that, I can't do it with somebody holding the chicken. It's just awkward to me. I mean, I can do it, don't get me wrong, but it's just awkward to me. And I've done it so long, just me doing it, that the way I do it it feels better to me than if somebody else is holding it and I'm trying to do it. It feels awkward.
Yeah. Dwayne says that you can tell a lot more about the health of your yard at midnight than you can in the daylight. And I got to agree with that because it's more peaceful to me, and I can see better when I don't have the sun in my eyes. What do you think about that?
Well, mine crow all night long. They don't. They love to be crowing at 9 o'clock. They may be crowing at midnight. I don't know why well, one of the things is I got my son put up some lights where you can kind of see outside when you walk by them, they come on.
Mm-hmm.
And this dog I got, he roams the yard and he'll set them lights on. I'm sure them lights coming on. They're not pointed toward the chicken a lot, but they can, it helps them, I guess it kind of stirs that wanting to crow up in them. And they'll go to crowing out there. Last night, my wife came and got me. So she woke me up. They were cackling and raising the chain out there. And I told her, I said, what do you want me to do? I can't even go out there. That wheelchair will be marred up. She went down there and looked around for me, and she said, I don't see nothing wrong. I said, well, one of them hens probably one running loose or, something probably happened, startled it, and it started cackling and set the whole bunch off. How
right
they do
it. Right here, this one points out that Impact Game Farm, North Alabama, he agrees with the nighttime thing because you can hear their breathing better. And that's true because you can tell a lot about a bird's health by listening to them breathe.
They're breathing, crowing, all that stuff. I can hear some of these roosters crowing. I spend so much time with them, I know which one's which. Mm-hmm. That's crazy, but I know which one's crowing.
Yeah, my kids laugh at me about that, but there's been times where I've been in the kitchen and I'll hear, how birds sound when they kind of get alarmed. I'll hear that noise and be like, hey, that's over here on this side of the yard. How do you know? Because I know which chicken it is.
Yeah.
Tell me this: what breed of game fowl? I know you got a couple on your yard there. What kind do you have?
About all I've got is the Billy James Kelsos, but now I raised some hatch chickens last year.
Okay.
And they're a cross of McLean and Doc Robinson hatch.
You got them from Noah, right?
Yeah.
All right. Let me ask you this. You were talking about setting up, I think this was before we actually went live. You're talking about setting up some breeding pens and the sizes that you wanted to get and all that. When you set up a breeding pen, are you looking at a trio? Are you looking at 3 hens? What is the ideal mating situation for you for your breeding pen?
This year I'm going to try to single mate everything because I'm trying to get those Kelsos back.
Yeah.
And then that big pen, something that I'm going to try. I think it'll work. I've heard of other people doing it. I'm gonna put all my hens on string walks, and each one will have a nest, and I'm gonna turn the rooster that's gonna be bred to all of them loose in the pen, and I'll know which hen laid what egg because the others can't get to it. You know what I'm
So
saying?
I have a friend of mine that has trying to think of the politically correct way. He's won 5 different shows. This
Right.
this one bird. And so what he has done is he has built a 12-foot wide by 30-foot long pen. And he, in that pen, you know, everybody thinks about putting roosters on tie cords with the TPs and, you know, all like that. Well, he went and he said it took him 3 days to sit on his yard and look at his hens. And with the hens, he looked at everything from the depth of their breast, the shortness of the body, the straightness of the legs, the coloring even in the feathers, anything from like the hackle feathers, the wings, everything. And he picked out his best hens. And he said, I put my hens on tie cords in that pen. He said, the rooster that I picked out, the cock that I had, I knew that bird was a winner. I knew he had the DNA that was needed. And he said, and he had some of the ones that made the cut was that bird's sisters. One of them was its mama, and a couple of others, no relation at all, except maybe distant cousins or something like that, you know, down the line. But what he did to start with was he would turn that rooster loose, and that rooster would go to the hens that was on the tie cords, like what you was talking about doing. And they had their tie cord, their TP, and, you know, a little nest. And what he did was he numbered them all and he pair mated them. And he said that some of the offspring that he wound up with was not desirable. And he knew which hen gave him that. And so he was able to do it that way. And he said that way, when you have a male bird that you know is a good set of genetics, you know, a lot of physical characteristics do come from the hen, so you can pick them out. But unless you pair mate, there's no way. And he said that doing that, putting the hens on the tie cord, let him narrow down which ones were the best. And he said that he was able to learn more about breeding and traits when he pair mated a bunch on tie cords than anything else, because the rooster was the same. The hen was the only thing that was different. And he said that really helped him become a better breeder, was when he did it backwards of what most people think. So I'm glad you mentioned that and brought it up.
To me, single mating is the best way to do it, but a lot of people don't. I mean, they just not going to do that. I never had done it much, and if I wasn't trying to bring back this, or I keep saying bring back, if I wasn't trying to get it to where I can maintain it, is what I'm trying to do. I've always put, you know, try to get full sisters or whatever and put them in a pen, put a rooster over it.
Right.
And incubate them eggs or set them under hens, whatever you're gonna do. And it's worked out for the most part, but I still believe single mating. If you want to know exactly everything about the chicken, single mating is the best way to go. You know exactly what hen, exactly what rooster it's out of. If you get 2 good ones and 2 it ain't worth a flip, you know what hen and rooster it is. If you get, like I was telling you, when Billy and them won those 72 fights with 11 roosters, they they knew exactly what hen and rooster it was because it was a single mated pair of them. And this Bruce wound up selling the brood cock, got all that messed up. But they, if you raise for quantity, you can't hardly do that. I mean, it's just not feasible to. Like if you got a big yard and you're trying to raise 200 or 300 roosters a year, you're not going to single mate all of that. I mean, it would be really hard to do it. Room would be one of the things that would get in your way. I mean, you'd have to have a ton of hens and where you put 3 or 5 in a pen or whatever you. Most people don't single mate. They probably well they used to not. Most they just didn't.
I'll say this: a true breeder has at least done it in some point in their breeding experience, in my opinion.
Yeah, it's hard to maintain a line.
Right. It's hard to maintain a line. It's hard to, until you've worked with those birds a few decades, or not decades, a few generations, you're not going to know what traits are going to offset what.
Yeah.
And so until you know that, you're going to have to do that. So we talked about some stuff to look for on the hens and ways to separate them out. Let's say you don't have a winner. You don't have a show winning brood fowl, rooster. You just have hens and roosters. What traits, let's say last year I ordered a dozen eggs to hatch out, and I'm trying to start a breeding program and I want to work with birds. But, I ordered 12 eggs. I got 16, 13 of them hatched out. I got a few roosters and a few hens. What do you look for when you pick out from that group, that selection, to pair together to make it? Let's say you got, 7 to 1, 6 to the other. And what do you look for to mate them and put them together? What kind of traits do you look for to pair up?
Well, let's say you're going to a show where they use pointed tools.
Mm-hmm.
Me personally, I like one that's a little broader back, big breast, kind of a medium to medium high station rooster.
Mm-hmm.
I want him to have good wings, and something I do that may sound crazy, but I've done it for years. I count feathers on their tail. Like, I want them to have 7 or 8 tail feathers on each side. Now that's not a disqualifying fault if they don't, but I like them to for a brood rooster. An old guy named William McRae, most people have heard of him. He told a friend of mine that one time about counting the tail feathers, and he liked to breed, and it just stuck with me. And there's several people that like them. Some people don't care. But I like them to have a small head. I don't want no big head like a end of a ball peen hammer sticking up there.
You don't want a big target.
Yeah, well, I don't like big-headed chickens, and of course, if you got a straight tone family, they're gonna feel a little different than if a pecan family will. Most time, pecan chickens are built like little footballs. Now, what I'm saying is not 100% all the time. I'm just saying for the most part, they'll feel like a little football. A straight tone chicken will have a longer breastbone, and it'll be a little bit more keener at the toward his head. Uh, for if they're using a sharp object as a tool, uh, the kind of slender body chickens is what most people like. They're not big, broad, wide back. You know, a big back and all that. That's more. It helps with power. You get a lot of power from that. The slender ones seem to be more athletic. I guess what I'm trying to say.
See, for me, like a lot of people will say football. Um, I don't like the big NFL size footballs. I like one about the size of a high school football. As far as the size is concerned, and I like to have pencil or bigger size legs because I like for the athletic type. I like for I want them to have good muscle development and stuff like that. Dwayne brought up a comment that he says if you hatch four brothers, one will be more dominant. He'll develop faster, bigger spurs, bigger comb than his brothers, and he likes a dominant stag. So I'll say this: the way I actually, to pick out a brood fowl without taking them to a show, I'll exercise them in my yard.
Yeah.
I've done it before, and I breed chickens, I breed quail, and I with I, I've got turkeys, I've got a lot of different birds, but I'm a big proponent of culling. I'll cull a bird if I don't like the way it looks. I'll cull a bird if I don't like the way its feet move. I'll cull a bird if it looks at me wrong. Just because I'm that picky when it comes to the whole breeding process. And I got some mugs a while back by just circumstances lined up, and I had some hatch out, and several of them were hens, and a couple of them, I think I had 5 little stags come out, and we had a storm one night, and some of them got loose, and they had it came out that they didn't like each other. And the 2 that was still standing when I got outside, I put both of them inside a cage by itself. And they were beat up pretty bad. And my son was like, "Daddy, what the crap? You just gonna let that happen?" And I said, "I'm gonna see who recovers and how the recovery works." And he was like, "Okay." I said, "That's going to be the leader of the next generation." And he just looked at me really funny. And I said, "Son, if you catch inferior genetics on your yard and you allow that bird to continue breeding, then you're accepting subpar birds." and you don't want to be known for having shit. Pardon my French. And
Blaine's right
he
about
just,
that dominant.
yeah, I mean, it's true. You got to keep it. You got to keep your genetics good.
Something else I look for in one is their attitude. And some roosters don't have bad days. You can watch them their whole life. They just don't. They're The others may be over there drawed up or, where it's cold or whatnot, and this thing's just standing there crowing. And there's so much to look for that anymore half the time I don't even know I'm looking at it. It's, it's kind of like I see it and I know it. And other people, if you do it long enough, you'll get to where you don't realize that how I put this, you're seeing stuff and you don't realize that you pay attention to that. Is what I'm saying. Your focus is broader, I guess is the way to put it. You can just kind of look at them and tell, hey, that's the one that I like, because they'll catch your eye. You'll have one in every bunch that he just catches your eye, and the others don't really do that. It doesn't mean that they're not any count. It doesn't mean that they can't show good. It just that one will catch your eye, and you can't really get beyond it. You'll be looking at this one over here, and you'll keep thinking about that one that really catches your eye. So I don't know a lot about how genetics work. I know a little bit about it, but I'm the believer if you'll keep trying to breed the best of the best, you'll go further than if you're worried about, well, his toes a little crooked, or if it's, what I'm saying. There's little things that in the big scheme of it don't really matter because they're not going to show up in the offspring. There's a lot of things that will. Just because you breed a rooster and a hen together, it doesn't. All you can do is look at their physical. You can. Another thing I look for is uh, I spar them. If you're not going, if you can't show them, you can at least. So that's all you can do. You can't. It's either you got to do it at a show or in the yard, like what you're talking about. You can't.
Can't speculate.
Well, now we got these cameras, and you can slow it down to where you can see everything. I don't know why people don't talk more about that as a tool to use to pick from. Because you can slow it down to where you can see exactly what's going on, and you can tell if it's accurate, if they're just hitting the air, or whatever you want to see. It's all right there, and it's in slow motion where you can see it. Because you can't see it if they're going, or you can't see mine if they're going at it wide open. It's always been amazing to me how something with a leg that size can hit so hard and generate that much energy from where it's coming from to where it's going to.
Now, a while ago, you said something about 8 tail feathers on a rooster. I know a lot of the people that caught that, they're wondering why. And I will say this, me personally, I look for 8 at a minimum. I absolutely would love to have 10 to 12.
Well, I'm talking about 8 on each side, man.
Me too.
Yeah.
Tell everybody why. What's the significance of those 8 feathers minimum on each side? What's the significance of that? And what
You want to
is
know
that
that?
give you?
If you want to know the absolute truth, it's because Will McRae said it, and I heard a guy. I mean, that's what I just like it. It's not going to make a big difference in performance. But if I got one standing there and they both look alike, and one of them's got 6 on one side and the other one's got 8, usually I'll pick the one with 8.
All right. So
It,
when
for your timing,
when I was learning stuff, I had to. That's somebody told me the same thing. Count the tail feathers. You want at least 8. If you could find 10 or 12, you may have a gold mine. That's because that tail feather is what those feathers is what determines the flight and the accuracy of the flight. So when that bird pops up in the air and starts moving, that's how much precision that bird is going to have with its movement. That's where a lot of the guidance comes from. Because
they use it like a rudder.
Yeah,
they use it like a rudder. You know, when they go up, it fans out.
Mm-hmm.
It goes down and kind of out, and they kind of use it like a rudder. But some of the best ones I ever seen didn't have, that on them. I think it helps with like their plumage. You want to. The old guy told me one time when you breed a line of chickens and you start getting them to where they got like 3 or 4 on each side, and they're kind of made up like that on your hand and kind of sticking up, that you're starting to lose your line. Now he was into genetics pretty heavy. I'm not smart enough to keep up with it, and I may know, like I say, a lot of stuff I look for and things I do are I've been doing it so long I don't even realize I'm looking at it a lot of times. I don't. I just see it and I know. Okay, that's what I like.
Yeah.
I like the total. That's like the leg length. People get these big old tall roosters that look like a stork. Uh, if their leg, I'm talking about the part with the scales on it.
Yeah.
If it's not shorter than their shank, the part that comes out of their body, I'll tell you what you can do. And I've done it. I was told about this one time, and I got to thinking about it, and I tried it. You go take you a short stick, and you put a long stick on the short sticks in your hand. You tie a little string there and put you a long stick on the other end of it. And you try to move that big stick around with that little stick in your hand. And it's kind of clumsy, like you can't really do it. But if you take a long stick and put a short one on the end of it, you can do anything you want to with it. And that was kind of how I saw that, or I may have read it somewhere. Man, I've read so much, and
see, that's what I look for with the legs. I look for the top section to be longer than the bottom, like you said, for precision. I look for. I like to have 8 sets of feathers. Let's see. Somebody actually said here they have. I have some hens that have 8 on each side. Is that good? And Birdman, I want to tell you, yes, it is good, because a lot of the physical characteristics of a chicken come from the hen.
Yeah, I count them on the hen and the rooster. Probably the hen more so than the rooster.
Yeah.
I like a hen that a lot of people they kind of want their hens real aggressive and all this stuff. I kind of like some that don't get me wrong. I don't want nothing pushing her over, but it's
Right.
kind of ladylike. That especially if you're gonna raise baby chickens with them. You don't want a hen that's fighting at you, and you wind up with a bunch of dead baby chickens. They'll kill them trying to get at you.
Yep.
I like one that's calm. I want. That's a big thing I look for anymore. I want when you go in the pen. I don't care if it's been 2 or 3 months since you've been in there. I don't want no rooster ricocheting off the wire and flying around, knocking my hat off and acting crazy. Some people don't mind it. I personally don't like it. I want one that he can be a little wild, but I don't want him just going. Now if I go in there with a dip net and I'm trying to catch him, yeah, he's trying to get away from me.
Right. But if you go in there to feed them, you don't want them acting like crackheads.
No, I like the more.
Like one of my first culls is between 2 and 4 weeks. And what I'll do is I'll separate the cockerels and the pullets into 2 different brooders. And I start looking at my hens first. The cockerels, you got to let them develop in stags, and there's a little bit they got going on there. But I'll look at the hens, and if in the brooder, while the hen is in the brooder, if she is protective towards the other chicks, I have actually gotten those, and I will paint their legs with fingernail polish until they get, or I'll put a wing band on them. I've started wing banding them. In the beginning, I'd paint them with fingernail polish so I could put a leg band on them later. But I've actually got some neon green wing bands and leg bands now, and I'll put one on them because that is a hen that mildly aggressive, not overly, but she's got that protective trait as well. She's already looking to protect the other chicks in the brooder. And so that's one that I want to identify. Now, if I have one that acts like a crackhead or looks like they're just a little bit weak, like it may be the run of the group or something like that, I'm going to go ahead and cull that bird. I'm not going to feed it. I've got people that, I'll cull that bird out, freeze it, and, somebody will feed it to one of the raptor birds or something like that, or a snake. So that's, a lot of people talk about when to cull. You should always, in my opinion, be looking to cull, because anytime you see something that's not right, you need to be willing to get rid of it. That's one of the reasons why guys hatch 400, 500, 600 birds a year, is so they can get those 50 to 100 birds that are rock solid. It's usually about 10, 15%.
Your first culling has to be off actions or physical deformity. It can't, because you can't really see nothing else. You can kind of watch the way they act, or like if one looks a little sick to me, that first day I may not kill it, but the next day I go out there, if he's still acting kind of funny, then I cull him. It's over with for him. I mean, if you don't.
Frank says that Johnny Jumper used to say that if the shank is shorter than the lower leg, the rooster will not have power or stamina. And I think that's 100% spot on.
Right, that's what I'm talking about. If you take that stick and put that string on it and try to throw that big stick around, Now,
You won't be able to control it.
in the shark, especially the long shark toes, you can get by with a little more of that. You know what I'm saying? In
Yeah.
the in in the pointed
Kiku,
toes, go ahead.
I was gonna say, Kiku says that the stork leggeds are no bueno.
Right.
I agree. I agree with that. Now, what was you gonna say
Now,
about the other?
you can breed, this year I'm breeding a rooster that's taller than I really like, but I'm breeding him to medium station hens. You know what I'm saying?
That
You
then
can,
that should work out perfect because those hens is where the offspring will get that physical trait from, and they will be shorter birds.
yeah, you can offset different stuff if I'm not gonna let, unless it's just real long, but he may be a little taller than I like or a little shorter leg than I like.
Yeah,
But I'm not gonna let that stop me from, if I really like him, then I'll just, if he's a little bit shorter legged, I'll just breed him to hens that are taller and try that at least, you know, and see what, to try to get maybe just medium station. Uh, I don't have a lot of trouble with that. When you start inbreeding and line breeding real tight, you'll run into more of that than you will like me. I try not to get no closer than cousins. Uh, I don't, unless I'm trying to save something. You know what I'm saying?
mm-hmm.
Like, uh, I try to keep them as far apart as I can, but yet as close as I can as far as they're alike. It's the
Yeah,
same chicken. I don't. Uh, I just thought that's how I've always did it. That's kind of the way Billy did it, and I don't remember the way people talk about breeding now is not like I remember it being years ago. They didn't really. I've seen guys that come and show tough for 3 or 4 years, and all of a sudden they show up and they can't win nothing. And
yeah.
people would say, "Well, their breed got bad. You know, their breed hen died."
And see
But those,
if you've got that good of a brood cock and brood hen, you need to. I mean, you need. Guy taught me you need three brood cocks. You need the king, the heir, and a spare. You need your ace. You need the one that's coming in right behind him, and you need a spare. Because if you don't have at least a king and an heir, you're one raccoon getting in your pen away from losing it all. Or
yeah, you need
one
to.
fox. You're one fox away from losing it, and that's not
Like
good.
if you take two brothers and two sisters, and the brothers are the same chicken, and the sisters are the same one, but they're not real kin to the roosters. You know what I'm saying? You got two roosters, you got two hens. Okay, you breed them together. For the next year, if you breed those offspring of them together, you're breeding cousins. Now that's a,
Mm-hmm.
people call it line breeding. It's still a little bit inbreeding, but it's not as close than if you breed father daughter, brother sister, and like I was telling you the last time, I know 5 people that's got these scale shows. Well, if mine get to looking a little whatever, I'll just go talk from on them and get some of theirs. Exact same chicken. They just been breeding it probably maybe a little different. I mean, their selection's probably been a little different, but it's the exact same blood. And I can get it and bring it back to my yard and breed it to mine, and it'll bring them back up a little bit. It won't take them down. The rooster that I got out here now that came from Kentucky, he's out of a brother-sister mating. And the boy had to. The mate killed all of his brood chickens. All he had left was brother and sister. Well, he bred them and got 6 and 7 pound chickens out of them. He didn't get little ones. And the one I got probably weighs 6'2" or 3. And instead of it, sometimes it has the opposite effect of what people think it'll do. In other words, you breed them and
go ahead.
You breed them together and people say, well, they'll come real little and they'll do this and they'll do that. Well, his did opposite of that. They came a lot bigger than they normally would, and it's a brother-sister mate.
Yeah.
And they turned out good. But like I say, he didn't have a choice. I mean, to keep them, he had to
do something.
Yeah, he so get rid of them.
For the person starting out, I like Ray's advice, and Ray and I have become friends. He's a really good guy. And he said this: if you're just starting out, and I believe this wholeheartedly, you can buy a trio. And with that trio, you breed them together, you single mate them. And then when you do that, you look at one offspring and you look at the other offspring, and you pick which one has the desired traits. And once you see those desired traits that you want to breed forward, that's when you make your selection and you start breeding. In my opinion, that's when it becomes your bloodline, is when you've made that selection and you start breeding and seeing what comes off of it. But I really like what Ray said. That is solid advice, especially to somebody that's watching this show that's not a breeder and they're looking for answers. That to me is the simplest way on how you get started, is to get you a trio and go from there.
When you go to get chickens from somebody, the first and the main thing you want, well, first of all, you want to make sure they got good ones. The second thing you want to do is make sure they're honest. Because if you go to a guy, he may win every show in the country, but if you ain't getting what he's been winning them with, and
then you ain't getting.
Yeah, honesty is a big thing, and you don't see a whole lot of it in this game. You just don't.
And there used to be some very honorable rooster men. There used to be. But now you see a lot of people, they're just selling chickens. That's all they're doing. They're putting a lot of high dollar price tags on it, and it's good looking birds. There's people that have won a lot and then they decide to start selling, and that's one thing. But I don't know. I'm real hesitant to sell my birds because I don't want to compete against my birds. But that's just
this year I sent a stag to Louisiana. That was the first time I'd ever sold a chicken in my life.
Yeah. If anybody has any questions, make sure you put them in the comments. Put a Q in the beginning of it. We've got about 5 more minutes. We can take some questions if anybody has anything particular we might not have covered yet.
Yeah, you can, if you need advice, or I ain't going to say it's good or whatever, but people young starting out, they want to message me on Facebook. I'm on there as Doug Childers. It ain't Dougie, it's Doug. and just send it to me, and I'll try to help you if I can. I'll tell you what I think and what I believe, and that's all I can do. Uh, like I say, I started in 1976. I hadn't had roosters my entire life. I hadn't tried to keep a bloodline. I hadn't, but I know I've raised a few, and I know I've been around probably one of the best, if not the best, to ever do it a lot, and that was Billy. And I watched how he done stuff, and he told me a lot. And I've had some other people that I was lucky when I was about 14 years old. I got to go through an entire keep with a guy,
Yeah.
and he was a good feeder. And I was there. My grandma had to carry me to his house every night when he would feed. I only went to the night part, when he was feeding out of the boxes.
Right.
And if anybody in Northwest Alabama in the Shoals area, I need some help. I don't get around too good. If somebody's interested in building pens for chickens or for money, or if they want to get up with me, I'll help them out much as I can, as far as letting them watch what I do, or how I do it, what I think one's supposed to feel like, look like, and all that.
So, I'm gonna let you answer this one because I'm probably a little partial. Lance says, "Have you tried Rapido Rooster, and what were your results?"
I tried it 2 years ago, and I couldn't believe it that chickens would grow like they do on that. I mean, and I used it this year. I feed it out every day. Maybe not every single day. I've skipped a few, but to me, and the results I've seen out of it, is probably the best thing ever made for a chicken. And I talked to Jeff a lot about it, and to me, the way he explained it to me, it's just everything that they need. And I've used Red Seal. There probably ain't nothing that's been made that I hadn't used at one time or another. But I like the Rapido better than anything I've used. And I buy mine just like everybody else. I mean, this ain't no sales pitch. It's just what I've actually seen. When they're little, I start out putting it in boiled eggs and feeding it to them. I put it in their feed, their baby chick feed. And I feed it to them their entire life. And I don't have no sickness. So far, if I do, I'll tell you. I mean, no, nothing, it ain't nothing to me, but it won't be because of that. But I think it does prevent a lot of things, and I think it helps a lot of things. I didn't realize how important their growth in like the first couple of weeks was till I talked to Jeff. And he's a smart guy, and he'll help you any way he can. That's the thing about it. You got a guy that won't charge you a dime, and I'm sure Kerry will too, to just get with him, and the stuff works. That's all I can tell you.
I mean, that's the whole reason why we do this show, and we cover the expenses of that, is because we want people to know. We want to help people. To me, helping people have better fowl is one of my passions. Kit Coop said, do you breed for physical abilities like style in the roosters?
Yeah. Yes, absolutely. That's the main thing. I I don't start really paying attention to a lot of different stuff until the sparring starts. And that's when it gets down to, and to me, what you want is consistency. You don't want one that does it real good one time and then not worth a flip one time and then pretty good one time. And you want one that every time you spar it, you get pretty much the same or better. Average, not average, but above average or better is what I look for. And I don't know no other way to get it other than to actually take it to a show or spar 'em. If somebody does, I'd like to know. And like I say, with all this, he can look great in sparring, and he don't look worth a flip. Then you got a rooster that ain't no count. I mean, that's even though he's pretty ain't gonna win. I mean,
I would say just because,
but I've noticed.
No shows.
I will say this: I've noticed the best ones are usually the better looking ones. They just carry themselves different.
But I'm gonna tell you, in my opinion, the birds that have that sheen in their feathers, the redness in their face, that comes from great nutrition. And when birds have their best nutrition, then you allow them to be the best athlete they genetically can.
Exactly. You gotta have health is a, like I said last time.
I'll say this too now. You can be pretty and not be an athlete, but it ain't often. But like Frank says, you can also be ugly and still be an athlete because there's some ugly athletes out there too.
Yeah. That's what I'm saying.
We're gonna have to continue this one later. We're over our time by about almost 5 minutes. I appreciate everybody tuning in. I appreciate all the questions. Dougie, as always, I appreciate you coming on here and sharing your wealth of knowledge. It's beneficial. I see lots of comments on YouTube throughout the week where people post how they appreciate the information. They thank us for sharing the knowledge, and they like the experience. And to me, that's what it's all about. I don't want to come on here and throw out a whole bunch of crap. I want to come out here and give y'all some information that's, worth more than the price of admission. So till next time, I appreciate everybody, and y'all have a good night.
Bye.